कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः।
We think that by fulfilling this desire we will become happy, but if that is so, then everybody would have become happy long back. Have we seen everybody becoming permanently happy by fulfilling any of his desires? We run after things one after another. One desire is fulfilled, for a moment we become happy till another desire comes in for something else, or another criticism or blameful thought comes about somebody else. We fulfill another desire and again we may become happy for a second, and again till another desire comes in and distracts our mind. So we never really get peace at all. So he says, Kama kami na shanti mapnoti. A person who is motivated by desires, he never gets peace at all. But who gets peace? Sa shanti mapnoti. Who is that saha? Apuryamana machala pratishtham samudram apaha pravishanti yadvat. Tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve. A person who identifies himself not with the wave of the sea but with the sea. The waves are formations in the sea. One wave goes up, rises, another wave merges. This wave again merges, another wave rises up. Infinite number of waves are rising and again coming down, merging into the sea. The sea remains unmoved. It remains unchanging. Apuryamanam, all the rivers and various other streams of water coming into it, it never gets attracted to the pure water or never even asks the filthy water not to come to him. It accepts the filthy drain water as well as the pure Ganga water. Both are accepted and all become sea. When they enter the sea, they become the sea water. They become one, gets dissolved in the sea water. They become identified with the sea water. Apuryamana machala pratishtham samudram apaha pravishanti yadvat. As is the state of the sea, so is the state of the knower. There, all the objects of desires, they come to him. He doesn't run after them. They all come and get merged in him. Because for him there is nothing other than the soul, nothing other than Brahman. When they come to him, they merge into his own identity. He gets the peace. Such a person, he says, Vihaya kamanyas sarvan pumamscharati nisprihaha nirmamo nirahankaraha sashantim adhigacchati. He attains peace when, leaving all the desires, sarvan kaman vihaya, leaving all desires, he moves around. Pumamscharati. He is not sitting in meditation in the cave, but he moves around. He is interactive. Pumamscharati nisprihaha. He moves around. He is involved, engaged in all interactions. It's an interactive life, but he is nisprihaha. He does not have any expectation from anywhere, from anybody in the world. That is again this non-expectation. Because of his non-expectation, he remains ever peaceful. Nirmamaha, nirahankaraha. Where is the mamatva? Because he has identified himself with the whole world. Atmaupammena sarvatra samam pashyati yo Arjuna. Sukham va yadiva dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. Krishna says that yogi is the supreme, for whom the whole world becomes his own Atma, his own self. So where is the mamatva especially there? He doesn't consider himself to be limited by his body, mind, personality. Nirahankaraha. He does not have any egoistic sense of kartritva and bhoktritva. He does not go into the past and repent about anything he has done. He does not loiter in the future thinking that I will have to do this, I have to do that, or I have done this. either aggrandizing himself, thinking that I have done some great work, or repenting, thinking that I have done some sin. It is said, Atita ananusandhanam bhavishyad avicharanam audasinyam api praptam jivan muktasya lakshanam. Said these are the characteristics of a jivan mukta, a person who is liberated while alive, who is liberated in life. Atita ananusandhanam. Anusandhana means following and being after it, researching. Atita ananusandhanam means not following the past, not going back into the past and finding out what has happened, what I have done, what I have not done, etc. Bhavishyad avicharanam, not to think about the future at all, imagining the future and thinking that I have to do this, I have to do that, loitering in that. Nothing of that kind. Then what does he do? He neither goes to the past, looking into the past deeds and past enjoyments or sufferings, nor does he look to the future that this will happen, that will happen. Audasinyam api praptam. This is called udasinata or audasinya, living in the present. Living in the present. He does not have any desire. He lives in the present. Whatever to be done, he does. Desire is not needed for his motivation. Whatever he can do for the society, whatever the society needs, he does. If he is successful, okay. If he is not successful, then also it is all right. So, nirmamo nirahankaraha sa shantim adhigacchati. Esha brahmi sthitih partha nainam prapya vimuhyati. Sthitvasyam antakalepi brahma nirvanam richati. Esha brahmi sthitih partha nainam prapya vimuhyati. Sthitvasyam antakalepi brahma nirvanam richati. He says, O Partha, O Arjuna, this is the Brahmi Sthiti. The Brahmi Sthiti which is spoken of in the Upanishads as the highest attainment in life, in human life. But in the Upanishads, it is described as an attainment through Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, the Kevala Jnana Nishtha. I am prescribing to you a sadhana, an interactive sadhana, interactional sadhana, living your life with the change of your vision, change of your attitude, you can attain the same goal of Brahmasthiti. This is the Brahmasthiti, and this is the interactive life of a Jivan Mukta. Brahma Nirvanam Richati, he attains Brahman. Sitva Asyam Antakalepi. He is saying that even in the last moment of life, a person, if he attains this state, then also he attains Nirvana, the liberation. That doesn't mean that you should defer it till the end of life. Often people take it that Bhagavad Gita said that Sitvasyam Antakalepi. So why should I do the sadhana now? I will do it at the Antakala, when I am about to die. No, it is only a figurative statement. It says that if one can attain at that point, also he gets Nirvana. But if you don't do the sadhana now, you will not be able to attain it at the last point also. If you attain it at the last point, then you will have Nirvana, no doubt. But if you don't do your sadhana now, it is hardly possible that you will attain it at the last point. So the sadhana has to be performed, sadhana has to be done right here and now, without any delay. Better late than never. We have to start right now. As we proceed with the sadhana, Bhagavad Gita says that it is not that something will come at the end of the sadhana after so many years. Every step of it is blissful. Swalpamapi asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Because every moment it is a process of expansion. The joy lies in expansion. Fearlessness lies in expansion. So as we do the sadhana, every moment we expand, and we get the joy, and we taste the liberation. Swalpamapi asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. We don't have to wait till a work is over to get the result. Result is every moment. Every time we do the sadhana of expansion, we feel the joy of it, we feel the expansion, we progress with it. So to summarize this revolutionary message, we must remember, first of all, that the activities are not hindrance to spiritual sadhana. Bhagavad Gita says that they are to be used, they have to be made into instruments for liberation by changing our vision and attitude. We have to change our vision and our attitude, and with that, whatever we are performing, if we perform, then our involvement in the interactions will lead us to expansion, uniformity, and final realization. Whatever situations we are in, never should we consider them as a hindrance. Suppose there is something adverse situation, we should consider all the situations to be an opportunity for sadhana, and our focus should be inward. Whenever something is there, our focus is always outward. Suppose somebody is abusing me, immediately we get agitated that why is he abusing me, and we start scolding him back or something like that. Our focus should be, well, he is abusing or he is angry, why my mind is getting angry? Why am I reacting to this in this manner? So throughout interactions, our watchfulness should be inward, and when even in very difficult situations, adverse situations, we should consider them as opportunities for our sadhana, because by forcing through such adversities, we will have a greater opportunity to have achieve greater samatva in a still more diverse field. We should remember in Bhagavad Gita sadhana or in any spiritual sadhana, the whole focus shifts from God to the personality. It is not for the God sitting somewhere in the sky at all. Our realization depends on the growth and transformation of our own personality. The realization is to be had within. God is all pervading, He is within me also. If we have to realize Him, we have to realize within. We don't have to go to some other loka, some other Svarga loka or anything for realization of the God. It is our mind, our intelligence, our personality, particularly our mind, it gets fused to its original source and become godly. That we must remember. That is why Bhagavad Gita has a very exceptional presentation in the 12th chapter while discussing the devotion. Krishna is particularly saying that devotion, the real devotion, is an assembly of 24 qualities. Unless the devotee has enough of these 24 qualities, we cannot call him a devotee. We cannot call ourselves a devotee unless we are cultivating those qualities. At least we try to cultivate those qualities. Similarly, in a very special manner, in the 13th chapter, while discussing knowledge, after enumerating 20 qualities, he says, Etad jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yadatonyatha. These 20 qualities consist of jnana. They are what make jnana. The knowledge is a conglomeration, is an assembly of these 20 qualities. And ajnanam yadatonyatha. All other things are ignorance. That means the characteral qualities they have discussed, we have to compare in each case. In the beginning, he has said that idam shariram kaunteya kshetram ityavidhiyate etad yo vetti tam prahuhu kshetrajna iti tadvidaha. This sharira is called, this body is called, this personality is called kshetra, and one who knows this is called kshetrajna. Now, if that is so, we will think that then I know kshetrajna, that I know that I am knowing my body, so I am the kshetrajna. But in the next verse itself, he is saying, kshetrajnancha api mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayo jnanam yatta jnanam matam mama. He says that you know me as the kshetrajna in all the kshetras. That means me as the Kshetrajna in all the bodies. Me means Krishna is saying knowing him or knowing the soul, the knowing the Brahman, that the real Kshetrajna is the same in all the bodies, one in all the bodies. Immediately we should have the enquiry or question, then I don't know the Kshetrajna. Initially I thought I understand what is meant by Kshetrajna, but here he is saying that Kshetrajnam chapi mam viddhi sarva kshetreshu bharata, in all the kshetras I am the Kshetrajna. And one who knows this knowledge of the Kshetra and Kshetrajna, I call that to be the knowledge. That means knowing this real identity which is one, uniform in all, the soul, the one transcendental soul, that is the knowledge. Now if this is the knowledge, and after a few shlokas, after enumerating 20 qualities, he says, Etad jnanam iti proktam. That means these qualities are called what is meant by jnana. Then we have to compare the two definitions. You will find that if we identify ourselves with that Kshetrajna, that who is the Kshetrajna in all the bodies, in all the Kshetra, the entire Kshetra, then automatically these qualities will flow down. That those qualities will originate from this identity. Otherwise, we will cultivate these qualities and go up the stream along these qualities. When finally we reach the peak, we will find that all these 20 qualities are appearing automatically. Even if we follow one quality, the other qualities also will come together. You can think of a mountain where on the top is the lake from where various streams are coming down. This lake you can compare with the ultimate identity, our true identity. If you analyze each quality as you go up, cultivating each quality, when you go up the mountain, is not the distance from all the other streams also coming down. We are coming closer to all other qualities also. The streams, as they flow down from the lake, they get separated. When we start from below, as we go upward, we come closer and closer to all the qualities. Finally, when we reach the top, the lake, then we understand that from there all qualities are flowing down. Like that, while reading this scripture, reading Bhagavad Gita, we have to analyze each of these 20 qualities and find out how they automatically come down from the actualization of the real identity that we are, from the oneness of the soul. Each quality will come down from that. Either we attain that soulhood and from there the qualities will come down, or we start cultivating each quality. As we progress upward, following each quality, the other qualities also will adorn our character, and we will finally reach the ultimate level where everything becomes one. Now this is how whole sadhana, we have to remember that it is a transformation of the personality. That is why we have called that revolutionary message for transforming life. Now the other point we should remember is that it is a simple law of exchange that we must remember, which is applicable as in the gross objects, it is applicable to the subtle objects like mind, intelligence also. As a moving ball, when it hits a standing ball, the energy gets transferred from the moving ball to the standing ball, and the standing ball starts moving, rolling. There is an energy exchange taking place. Like that, our personality, the different aspects of our personality always undergo such exchanges. By spending mind hours with thoughts which are noble, which are pure, which always indicate oneness, universality, love, our mind will generate those qualities. If we go on thinking about evil, if we go on thinking about others' defects, if we indulge in fault finding, in blaming others, then our own mind is getting polluted by that. By any blaming thought, it is any thought of evil, it is our mind which is contracting that evil and the blame. That we should always remember and be watchful about our mind. So the thoughts we will have to take to should always be liberal thoughts, noble thoughts, expanding thoughts. Then we will slowly proceed towards our real identity. Akashavallepaviduragoham adityavadbhasya vilakshanoham aharyavannityavinischaloham ambodhivatparavivarjitoham. This is our real identity. Akashavallepaviduragoham adityavadbhasya vilakshanoham aharyavannityavinischaloham ambodhivatparavivarjitoham. It says, like the sky, taintless am I. As anything happening to even to the air, it doesn't touch the space at all. The space never gets contaminated by the pollution of the air. Nothing touches the space. Like the sky, taintless am I. Like the sun, I am self-luminous. Truly speaking, even the sun is not really self-luminous. To see the sun, we have to have eyes. Not only the eyes, finally the vision is given by the consciousness. The sun has to appear in the consciousness. So the real self-luminosity is belonging only to our self, not even to the sun. Like the mountain, I am unaffected, immovable am I. As the mountain is stable, like that, I can never be moved by anything happening around. Like the sea, like the ocean, I am unbounded. Unbounded am I. I am unlimited. I am infinite. Akashavallepaviduragoham adityavadbhasya vilakshanoham aharyavannityavinischaloham ambodhivatparavivarjitoham ambodhivatparavivarjitoham. Hari, that's it. Jai Guru. See, this spending mind hours on sadhana is extremely important, because as we think, so we grow. That is why in all the scriptures they have highlighted the satsanga so much. That satsanga means association of the saints, association of holy people. And all the sadhanas, whatever we may do, they have given the highest benefit. They have said that the highest benefit comes from satsanga, the association of the wise, the association of the knowers. In satsanga, in the association of the wise, the transformation takes place as if like a process through osmosis. In osmosis, what happens? In a semi-permeable vessel, you have pure water inside and you have salt water outside. After some time, you will find that the salt has percolated into the central vessel, into the pure water. The two waters are becoming same. Like that, in satsanga, unawares all the qualities of the wise person, they start percolating our being also. It is such an easy process. It is the most efficient process. So everywhere they highlight this satsanga. Srimad Bhagavatam says, Narodhayati mam yogo na sankhyaṁ dharma evacha na svadhyayas tapastyago neshtapurtam na dakshina vratani yajñas chandamsi tirthani niyamayamaha yatha varundhe satsangaha sarvasangapaho himam. He says that Bhagavan, it is from Bhagavan's side, that Lord is saying that nothing can bind me as much as the satsanga can bind me to the heart of the disciple. What is he saying? He says that by yoga, performance of yoga, by sankhyam, that is by the pursuit of wisdom, by pursuing dharma, righteousness, by pursuing studies, swadhyaya, by doing all sorts of austerities, tapaha, by renouncing everything, tyagaha, ishtapurtam means doing some puja and doing some welfare activities, dakshina, giving gift or giving offering to the saints, vratani, by following some vow, some practices, yajna, performing some yajna, chandamsi, by studying the Vedas, tirthani, by going to the pilgrimages, pilgrim spots, niyama, yamaha, by following the external disciplines, internal disciplines. All this, all kinds of sadhana has been enlisted here. By pursuing all these, I will not be so close to the heart of the disciple as I will be when the devotee is in the association of the holy people. That gives him the maximum benefit. Yatha varundhe satsangaha sarva sangapaho himam. Why? Because the sangha with me removes all other sangha. This is a beautiful usage of the word sangha. Sangha with the sat means association of the wise. That means we develop, we may say even attachment to the wise. People will say, in pursuing self-realization, are we not desiring self-realization? Are we not getting attached to the Guru? Well, the attachment to the Guru will release us from all other worldly attachments, and then this attachment also can go. So this is this association with the Sat, association with the saints, association of the wise. They will easily remove all our worldly likes and dislikes, all kinds of sangha we fostered towards the limited objects, towards the world objects, world situations. So this mind hours is most important, spending mind hours with the thought of the soul. And even if we think of the soul, the thought will not be, it will not give us the proper inspiration, the proper qualities, as it will when we are in association of the wise. They will automatically, unawares, they will percolate in our being and take us to the ultimate goal. In Viveka Chudamani, Shankaracharya says that there cannot be any upama, any illustration for the Guru, for the Sat. Because if we think of the Parashamani, which the touchstone, its philosopher's stone, which when touches the iron, it converts the iron into gold, but it does not transform the iron into another philosopher's stone, another Parashamani. But the Guru is one who by his touch, by his association, he makes the disciple another Guru. He makes the disciple like himself. So Shankaracharya says that there is no upama, there is no illustration of the Guru anywhere in the world. Shankaracharya says, Drishtanto naiva drishtaha tribhuvana jathare sadguro jnanadatuhu sparshaschet tatra kalpyaha sanayati yadaho swarnatam ashmasaram nasparshatvam tathapi shritacharana yuge sadguru sviya shishye Swiyam samyam vidhatte bhavati nirupama tena valaukikopi.